We're given a table of values for the g function and the f function, and we're asked to complete the table of values for the f composed with g function. As a reminder, the definition of a composite function is that we are going to be plugging the g function into the f function. The function indicated on the left is the function that'll be on the outside. So in this first row, we're asked to evaluate f composed with g of -2. F composed with g of -2 is the same thing as evaluating the g function at -2 first, and then plugging that result into the f function. So we'll start with determining what is g at -2. So we go to the g table, we look for the domain element -2, and we see what the corresponding output is. So g evaluated at -2 is 4. So now we replace g at -2 with its value, which is 4, and we'll be looking at the function f, now evaluated at 4. So to determine f evaluated at 4, we go to the f function, we look for the domain element 4, and determine what its corresponding output is. That output is -1, and so the output of this composite function is -1. So let's do that again. We'll now be plugging -1 into the f composed with g function. So to evaluate f composed with g of -1, we first plug -1 into the g function. So g operates on -1 first, and the output of g is going to be +1. So that +1 output of g becomes the input on the f function. So then we look for +1 on the f table and determine what its corresponding output is, which is 4, and that's going to be the output of the f composed with g function evaluated at -1. So let's do this again. We're now looking at f composed with g at 0, which means that we plug 0 into the g function first. 0 plugged in the g function has an output of 0. That output becomes the input for the f function. So now we look for 0 on the f table, and its corresponding output is 3, and that will be the output of the f composed with g function, where the original input was 0. To determine the value of f composed with g at 1, we plug 1 into the g function first and get an output of 1. That output becomes the input to the f function, and f evaluated at 1 is 4, so our output is 4. And finally, we're evaluating the f composed with g function at 3, which means that 3 gets plugged into the g function first. G evaluated at 3 is 2. 2 becomes the input for the f function. F evaluated at 2 is -2, and -2 is then the output of the f composed with g function evaluated at 3.